This area behind me is the old Hamilton Wharves on the Brisbane River. This was once the site of warehouses and shipping and cargo and noise and sweaty people. And it was also the site of where cruise ships used to dock here in Brisbane. In this documentary, I'm going to be talking about the history of cruise shipping in Brisbane. And there are reminders of that history along the river, especially here on the north side of it. The cruise shipping industry here in Brisbane began on the 23rd of December in 1932 with the arrival of the P&O vessel RMS Stratherd. RMS stands for Royal Mail Ship, and the Titanic was an RMS as well. She was on a trip from Sydney up here to Brisbane and then to Norfolk Island. And it was very, very popular. The whole ship was booked out within a week of being advertised for that cruise. So more cruises were put on the schedule for that ship. Australians fell in love with cruising. Normally Stratherd was used for the migrant run from the UK to Australia. She was an ocean liner. But for a while she was pressed into service as a cruise ship. And this is where she docked, or berthed, that's what I should say. Oh, and fun fact, Olivia Newton-John, when she was 5 years old and with her family, migrated to Australia from England aboard the Stratherd. So there it is, from 1932, P&O have become synonymous with cruising in Australia. And just because I'm in a trivia mood, do you know what P&O actually stands for? It is the Peninsular and Oriental Steam Navigation Company. It was originally two companies, the Peninsular and the Oriental, that joined together. Interestingly about the Oriental line was that, this was a British company, the design of their ships remained very similar over many decades. You can see the older ships here with the bridge kind of almost sort of forward midships. And that was carried on ship after ship, even up until the Oriana, which was the last Oriental line ship. And I sailed in Oriana a few times with my family. Wonderful ship, but they always kept that same kind of design. Very interesting. In terms of the Peninsular Shipping Company, it was called that because the ships went from Britain into the Mediterranean around the Iberian Peninsula, that is Portugal and Spain. The colours of the P&O flag represent the colours on the Portuguese and the Spanish flags. And there is a way to remember what colour goes where on the P&O flag, and it's this: blue to the pole, red to the fly, yellow below, and white on high. All life is a journey, and not just in our daily lives and travels, but also where we come from, our heritage journey. This is a paid collaboration, and one I'm honoured to offer you, my subscribers, and my followers. As a very special offer, and for a limited time only, My Heritage is offering access to your DNA test and results for only $25. Wow. A couple of years ago, I did a DNA test with My Heritage, and to say that I was stunned by the level of detail and information would be an understatement. This is what I found back then. What do we got? Let's go. 42.4% English, 34.1% North and West European, 13.7% Irish, Scottish and Welsh. And now, 2 years later, here are my updated results. What I've noticed is that my percentages and ethnicities have remained the same, which is great. That shows that it's really working. Pretty cool. All right, now I'm going to take a look at ancient origins. My Heritage have outdone themselves with this fantastic and exciting new feature. It allows you to trace your heritage history as far back as 10,000 years. All right, here we go. This is the Ancient Origins feature. So it goes through hunter-gatherer and farmer breakdown, genetic similarities, genetic distance maps, and sample database. According to this, I am 41.2% European hunter-gatherer. That is much higher than I thought. Anatolian Neolithic farmer 35%, and Caucasus hunter-gatherer at 23.8%. Explore 50 ancient populations most similar to you genetically. The genetic fit score indicates how closely your DNA matches these groups. Nordic, wow. Seems like I've got a lot of Nordic Iron Age. That could be the Anglo-Saxon signature. Because you've got to remember the Anglo-Saxons are a Germanic Scandinavian people. They just came to Britain before the Vikings did. Genetic distance map. Holy shamoly, look at that. Good heavens, that's the kind of thing you would frame and put on the wall. I'll be a geneticist by the time I go through all this. It just goes on for pages. All right, suffice to say, I am blown away by this. I'm truly and deeply astounded at what I've learnt about my past as a result of Ancient Origins. So just so you know, this is a very limited time offer. It's only $25. For heaven's sake, snap it up. Right, so here's the details of the bundle. There are two options for you to choose from.
Option 1. You're getting the DNA kit for $25, which includes the DNA ethnicity estimate, DNA matches, and Ancient Origins. And with option 2, you're getting all of that, with free shipping and the 30-day free trial to MyHeritage genealogy subscription that allows you to build your family tree, find relatives, and access to 36+ billion historical records and documents. With my code ROB25, all you pay is $25. This is the perfect Christmas or birthday gift, or maybe a gift just for yourself.
As a subscriber to my channel, you know how important history is to me, and I've gone and ordered 2 kits. And who knows, maybe you and I are related. So please don't delay on this. Trust me, this is for a very limited time, and you get so much for only $25. And once you've got your results, please feel free to share them on my channel. I'd love to know what you discovered. Further details are in the description box. What a beautiful day. I am astounded at what MyHeritage have achieved, and I couldn't be more proud to promote this offer.
The era from 1945 to about 1972 saw 1 million 10-pound poms emigrate from the UK to Australia, with many disembarking in Brisbane. Ships such as the Canberra, Oriana and the Arcadia helped with this exodus, though many other non-P&O ships also contributed to it. The £10 was essentially the processing fees. Basically, it was a free trip. The point of this was to help populate Australia and fill in-demand jobs, especially within the building industry.
As I explored this North Shore area here and this Maritime Green Park, I've noticed that they're making very good use of old shipping containers. In fact, there's an example right behind me. That's the Brisbane Circus Centre. The whole thing is made out of formerly used containers. Wow. Very cool.
In the 1950s and 1960s, and with the increasing popularity of air travel, the long-haul ocean voyages between Australia and Great Britain became uneconomical, and ocean liners that were designed essentially as immigrant ships were now being transformed into cruise ships. The Oriana was an example. She was originally a 2-class ocean liner, first class and tourist class. In 1974, she became a 1-class cruise ship.
So the situation in the 1950s, 60s and into the 70s for cruise shipping was a popular form of holiday. Not a lot of people took them. There weren't a lot of cruise ships out there. Most of the ships that were in service were ex-ocean liners, ex-migrant ships, and just older ships as well. So they weren't too flash. What happened in 1977 was a new TV show came along. And that was the catalyst for the enormous expansion of international cruise shipping. And that series was The Love Boat.
In 1977, the Love Boat TV series debuted. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it was an American sitcom featuring the romantic and comedic exploits of the ship's key personnel and a variety of different passengers aboard the Pacific Princess, a real ship in P&O's Princess fleet. The show was also known for featuring new actors who went on to great fame and old has-beens that needed a paycheck.
At home, my family and I, we watched it every week when it was on. I mean, they had Bigfoot on the ship once. I don't know how Bigfoot got on board. That's a curlew. Hello. So yeah, it was kind of dumb 70s entertainment, but it was hugely successful. But what it did, it really kick-started cruise shipping in a monumental way. Everyone wanted to now take a cruise and have that much fun.
Quite honestly, the greatest example of product placement in entertainment history. The result was that the cruise companies gradually sold off their old former ocean liners and began to build ever larger cruise ships.
Ocean liner companies and small cruise ship companies now found themselves inundated with bookings. So what they had to do was start building ships, purpose-built cruise ships. They weren't too big to begin with, but they got bigger and bigger pretty soon. It's been nearly half a century now since that show began, and we're still feeling the effects of how popular it was. Someone once asked me, what I thought of it. Was it realistic? And I said, no, it was idiotic. But that didn't matter. It was so much fun to watch, and I still have very fond memories of the Love Boat. In fact, now that I think about it, the Pacific Princess has docked here in Brisbane, right here at the Hamilton Wharves. And just so you know, the largest cruise ship in the world today is the Icon of the Seas, weighing in at 250,800 tonnes, 250,000 tonnes. By comparison, the Titanic was 45,000 tonnes. Here's a picture of the two of them side by side. Where I am right now is where the Hamilton Wharves used to be, as in this was the place where cruise ships and container ships and cargo ships would berth. When we came up from Sydney for a visit on a South Pacific cruise, our ship would dock around about here, and in front of us would be old rusting tin sheds. And this was our first look at Brisbane. Of course, all the big sheds and warehouses here are now gone, and this North Shore area is going to be a massive new development. Just taking a look around the Hamilton Wharves area where the big warehouses used to be just behind me. And here on the ground, you can still see remnants of the railway line system they had here to move cargo along the very extensive wharves here. You see that? There they go, off in that direction there. They go off that way as well there. They've made very good use of the old, kind of like sleepers. These are the wooden beams, huge ones that were used to build the wharves here. The wharves were so extensive. There's thousands of these things. So this one's a bench, and they've made little stools there, and curbs. There's such substantial hunks of wood, these. I wonder what kind of wood it is that they use to build the wharves here. It's some kind of hardwood, I suppose. It's, ow. Splinter. Just a quick little detour while I'm here in the city. I'm at the GPO. When we came up here on a cruise in 1980, that was the Sea Princess, my mum and my sister and I came here specifically through those doors there because there were a line of telephones, public telephones. They had these orange kind of domes over them. Telecom, that's what it was back then. And Mum phoned her mum, my grandmother, in Sydney, just to say that we had arrived in Brisbane and we were having a nice time. The telephones are long gone now, and that's my main memory of Brisbane. I was 9, and I remember looking up that way behind me, up Queen Street, and I remember seeing cars heading up the hill, because this was 2 years before the Queen Street Mall was started. And I had some pocket money I'd saved up, and I went to Coles New World that was on the intersection of Queen and Edward Streets, and I bought a snowspeeder from the Empire Strikes Back. I think it cost me $10. I've still got it. The reality of visiting Brisbane back in the 70s and the 80s on cruise ships was that when you got here, there wasn't really a lot to do in Brisbane. The vast majority of passengers either went to the Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary, that was very well known in Sydney, or they hopped on a bus and went down to the Gold Coast because, passengers from Sydney do want to see the Gold Coast. Not a lot of people stayed here in Brisbane, and to be honest, back then, I don't think there really was much to see and do here.
For many years, Luggage Point near the sewage treatment plant near the mouth of the Brisbane River was a favourite hangout place for us local cruise ship nerds. There was a terrific vantage point there where we could see the ships entering the Brisbane River from Moreton Bay.
Just over the river there from the Hamilton Wharves where I am now, over there is the Cairncross Dry Dock. It opened in 1944 for the maintenance and repair of naval vessels to get them back into the fight during World War II. The dry dock actually is the second largest in Australia. The largest is a naval one down in Sydney. In the 1990s, it was used by P&O Cruises for the maintenance and refurbishment of some of their cruise ships. I believe the first one to enter the dry dock was the Sky Princess. The dry dock closed in 2014, and since then its fate has been up in the air. There was a plan to fill in the dry dock completely and use the whole site for apartments. I think that fell through, and then it was going to be developed for industrial purposes. I'm not sure if that's going ahead now. It's another part of the cruise ship legacy here on the Brisbane River, and they're right across from each other. Hamilton Wharves here, dry dock directly opposite. Oh, better not forget this. In 2006, the Brisbane Cruise Terminal opened here at Hamilton and was known as Portside. In fact, that building just behind me there, that was the cruise ship terminal building. Lovely little facility here for cruise ships, which would dock right there to my right. When it was announced by the state government that they were keen to build a cruise terminal here at Hamilton, my dad, who was at the time a consultant to the cruise industry pertaining to Queensland, strongly urged them not to build the terminal here at Hamilton, for the simple reason was that it was on the wrong side of the Gateway Bridge. He was fully aware of the size of the cruise ships that were now being built and launched, and he knew that those ships would never get down the river under the Gateway Bridge to actually get here to Portside. Well, the state government ignored him. They went ahead and built this massive facility. And what happened? Ships still came here, but they were the smaller, medium-sized, older ones with less passenger capacity. The larger ships, well, their only option was to dock at Fisherman Islands or give Brisbane a miss altogether. For example, in 2017, the world's fourth largest cruise ship, the Ovation of the Seas, couldn't get down the river here to Portside, so she had to berth at Fisherman Islands. The general consensus from passengers coming to Brisbane was that Fisherman Islands really was a pretty dreadful place to be introduced to a city. Brisbane seriously needed a new cruise terminal built on the correct side of the Gateway Bridge, and one that could handle the massive new ships that were being constructed. And the plans for that new terminal were already on the drawing board. It was on the 27th of August 2021 that the Brisbane International Cruise Terminal was finally put into use. It cost $177 million. It was due to open the previous year in 2020. However, that opening was delayed because of the global pandemic. Ironically, the very first ship to use this facility wasn't even a cruise ship. It was an Australian naval vessel, HMAS Chulus. And then finally, in June 2022, the terminal welcomed its very first cruise ship, and that was the P&O vessel, the Pacific Explorer. Oh, and by the way, that ship behind me, the Carnival Encounter, I've actually sailed in that ship in April of 2024. Back then she was still part of the P&O fleet, and she was known as the Pacific Encounter. Same ship, just been rebranded. It was in March 2025 that P&O Cruises Australia came to an end, and it was amalgamated into Carnival Cruise Line. What began in 1932, a tradition of cruising that Australians embraced for generations, came to an end. And in terms of Brisbane, this is where it all began, down here at Hamilton.
And one more thing. What was the fate of the Love Boat, the Pacific Princess? After changing owners a few times, she was eventually deemed too expensive to refit, and in 2013 she was broken up for scrap at the Izmir Ship Recycling Company in Turkey.
Well, I think that'll do it. A little history of cruise shipping here in Brisbane. And please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. It does help the channel. And take a look at some of my older videos if you're in the mood. Thanks very much. I'll see you again soon.
Thanks again to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to click the link in the description box or scan the QR code and use my code ROB25 to get the DNA kit for only $25 and more.